Dear Toastmasters, dear beloved guests, would you agree that our life is full of people telling us stories? And actually a lot of them are quite unlogical. Eric Byrne, the founder of Transactional analysis, said in order to be able to cut through the BS and maybe get the gist and the truth behind every story, we should try to approach a Martian view. What did he mean with this? Imagine Mario from Mars comes and visits planet Earth. And without any preconceived ideas, he observes what is actually going on in the world and only looks at the outcome with the eyes of innocence. I think the best way to visualize this is by just taking a very common story. Are you all familiar with Little Red Riding Hood? Or Rotkäppchen? For the ones to give a refreshment, the story goes like this. A little girl is being sent by her mother to her grandmother who lives deep down in the forest to bring her some cake and wine. Halfway through, she meets the big, bad wolf. And he asks in detail where the grandmother lives, then tricks her, directly runs already to the grandmother's place, eats her, puts on the grandmother's clothes, and waits for Little Red Riding Hood. When Little Red Riding Hood actually arrives there, she's already a bit suspicious, and she asks, "Dear grandmother, why do you have such big eyes? So I can see you better. But dear grandmother, why do you have such big hands? So I can grab you better. And dear grandmother, why do you have such big teeth? So I can eat you better." And then he eats her. Later the huntsman comes, saves the day, cuts open the belly of the wolf, and everyone is happy, right? So what is the moral of the story? The most common interpretation is that it should warn little girls from talking to strangers. Yeah, they could be murderers, rapists. But if you look at it from the eyes of Mario, from a Martian perspective, well, you would ask yourself some questions maybe regarding the mother. I mean, which kind of mother sends her little girl alone into the dark forest, being aware that wolves live there? I mean, why didn't she just accompany her or go by herself? Further, if the grandmother is really so old and sick, why does she just let her live deep down in the forest, isolated? Regarding Little Redcap, we should also ask ourselves a few questions. Maybe, didn't that girl get suspicious when the wolf asked her in detail where the grandmother lives? And then later, I mean, she notices all the physical attributes of the wolf, and she still believes it's the grandmother? Really? If you look from Martian perspective Martian perspective, you could actually think about what could be the real motives behind every character. So regarding the mother, well, the mother obviously just try to get rid of Little Red Hood for an accident. The huntsman obviously likes to play the hero. The wolf, I mean, he could have just taken this low-risk alternative and just hunt rabbits, but instead he plays this huge psychological game of dressing up like an old grandmother. And so what could be his motive? Well, no risk, no fun. Then, if you look at the perspective of the grandmother, I mean, she lives isolated in the forest and just leaves the door open. So maybe she was just waiting for an adventure. And if you look at Little Red Riding Hood, I mean, she not only tells the wolf in detail where she will be later, she even goes to bed with him. So maybe some unresolved daddy issues. I mean, the father was never mentioned in the story. So if you look at it from this perspective, the moral of the story would not be that little girls should avoid walking through the dark forest. It would rather be wolves should worry and watch out for little girls and their grandmothers. To make it in a nutshell, wolves should not walk alone through dark forests. Why is this not relevant for us? In our daily life, people try to express themselves, so they use a lot of stories and try to conceive them with their own opinions. But they're often not very logical. And they often also, people follow a certain life script. Life script means that they're just unconsciously taking a role in life and just always constantly repeat the same old habits. We all know people who act like the mother, who risk the health of others. We know people who act like the huntsman, who always have to please or help others. We all know people like the grandmother, who just lay in bed and wait for something to happen. But we also know people who act like Little Red Hood, who get into stupid situations without thought and then expect others to save them. Getting this Martian perspective helps us to understand, if we just look at the outcome, what is really going on. And if we take a bigger picture in our societies, media, politics, everything's full of stories, right? And everyone tells you, I'm the huntsman, I will save you. But if you look really deep down just at the outcome, just at the action, without any preconceived ideas, we would often kind of realize that he or she is a wolf and not necessarily someone who will actually save me. Hermann Hesse wrote in his book Siddhartha, the opposite of every truth is just as true. And I just wanted to leave you with this quote, and when you go home now today and you meet a wolf, please don't hurt him.